When talking about Dostoevsky's The Underground Man and Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, it is quite easy to make certain connections almost immediately. One would be the way they both exile themselves from society due to some trauma and pain they have experienced. They both cope with these feelings in very similar ways, the self pity, self loathing, and then the attempt at justifying why they are right in feeling this way and why they are right in possibly projecting their pain onto others or outwards. And another quite face value connection would be where they live. They both live in the underground. Underground Man lives underground in terms of his metaphorically, in terms of his house, dark, dingy, like an underground tunnel. The Invisible Man quite literally lives underground in a basement, siphoning power and resources from around him. But if you took just one step further, a little deeper dive into the characters, you can see how the Invisible Man is almost a parody of the the Underground Man, and it does this through like three main details. I would say one would be the setting and background, two would be the source of their pain and reclusion, and three would be the end state at which at like how they are at the end of their respective novels. And starting off with settings and background, quite obviously a difference between the two. The Underground Man lives in mid 1800s Russia, St. Petersburg to be exact, which was the capital of the Russian Empire at the time. So he lived in a very fairly big city. There is like New York. You can think about a lot of things are happening, all different type of characters, all different types of people, and he is a faceless figure among the sea of the masses. He is invisible in this sense because he is a social outcast and he has isolated himself so that he maybe to protect himself from further pain or maybe to just try and deal with his pre-existing pain. The Invisible Man lives in a very different setting in 1930s America, but he in this book he was moving around a lot, but he did go from the south into the north. But either way, an African American man living in segregationist America was not the best. He had to deal with a lot of systematic racism, a lot of personal level racism, and he was just being oppressed on all sides. And the Underground Man, he was a part of the homogenous community in Russia. He was a white dude, so he did not have to experience as much systematic pressure, as much pain from all sides as the Invisible Man did. And that moves on to their source of their pain. The Underground Man, he got, to put it lightly, he got bullied and he was socially awkward. And because of this, he never truly dealt with these feelings, and it kind of just ate away at his psyche until he reached the point out where he is, where he's just constantly rambling, crying, constantly yelling like delusions. His contrarian attitude that is self-destructive. He he has the ability to change in the sense, unlike the Invisible Man, because on that point, the Invisible Man, he's a victim. He's like a victim in the like a purest of terms. He's being hate crimed left and right constantly throughout the book. He's being betrayed by everyone. He's making these like little mistakes that cascade into larger ones, constantly over and over and over again. He is a victim of the system. He is a victim of just pure bad luck, and he's a victim of just a victim of bad people all around him. So, looking at this, you can obviously tell one one character's pain is, it's not correct to necessarily say it's greater, but it's much more difficult to deal with, because for the Underground Man, his pain exists on a more personal level, a more like individualistic level. In that sense, he really does have the ability to change it, because there's not much stopping him. There's nothing combating him from trying to change the way he is and trying to improve his life through just personality changes or something. But as for the Invisible Man, he needs to fight the system. He needs to fight the people around him. He needs to fight everything. Everything is an enemy and is surrounding him on all sides. It's quite unfair in that sense. He cannot really change that easily as the Underground Man. And moving on to the final point, the endings of each respective novel. The similarity that exists between both novels is that at the end, the characters say they stop writing. They stop writing their journal, they stop writing about their pain, their trauma, and they are going to take an action related to this, their stoppage of their writing. For the Invisible Man, he's in his writing, in his words, he stopped his writing, and he seems to be more optimistic about the future. He seems to be able to, he has reflected and he has accepted his feelings, he has acknowledged them, and he has grown from it. It looks like he's ready to once again go back out there and fight for the change he wants, so that he will not have to experience such pain and trauma again. But on the other hand, the Underground Man is just reenacting the legend of Sisyphus. He is rolling up the stone over and over and over again to no avail. He said he's gonna stop writing, and then in Dostoevsky's note, he says that he just relapses and goes back to writing. He is trying to achieve something that is the unachievable, and he's being punished for it constantly. And in this sense, returning to what I said, it was how the Underground Man, an individual with an not easily, but a possible solution. He's able to change things for himself much easier than the Invisible Man. He has some social issues. He has some mental trauma he needs to deal with, but the Invisible Man needs to fight. He needs to really give it his all in order to get an iota of change, of relievement from his pain. And you can see that like a running motif in the Notes from the Underground. He's a contrarian. He's very much irrational, and it doesn't make sense, because why are you doing something that's hurting yourself? It's silly, it's irrational, but it makes you not root for the narrator. Like, the narrator, he's making the same mistake over and over again, and there's just no way you can support him if he's just being this like foolish. But for the Invisible Man, his trauma, his pain, it's just silly when you try to compare the two, the sources of their pain. And it's just, yeah, like, why would you try to hurt yourself when there's already so much more pain going around all of you? The Invisible Man needs to step it up. He needs to push forward, or else he's going to get absolutely destroyed by all the pressures around him. And the Underground Man, he is just like a jester character, constantly just making a fool of himself, and he just does not want to change, despite change being the best solution for him and much more easily achievable than the Invisible Man's change.